The Sandy and Toddcast is a MindgardenMedia podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
It is time to end season 5, episode 15. We are calling this one "The End Is Here," and I'm going to add the word "finally." And she is Sandy.
He is Todd.
And it's the Sandy and Toddcast.
Yeah, and it's been quite an interesting week, has it not?
I think it always is, isn't it? It's just, it's just.
You and me. Just some really crazy life stuff going on. And you've had a ton of work. You've been stressed and busy. And I have had some things going on health-wise. And that's nothing new, apparently. For somebody who's somewhat healthy, I certainly have a lot of weird scares and things going on. My God.
Every week it's something else. In fact, what I've decided to do, because I think this would be really a money-making scheme for us, is create a Yahtzee game around your health. And basically you roll the dice and you get like 3, eye surgeries, or you get 5 gallbladder surgeries or something, and you can scream Yahtzee then.
Well, it's funny you say eye surgeries, because that has been one of the focal points, indirectly one of the focal points of my week, because here's what happened. Last Saturday, we're recording this on Saturday. What's today, the 24th?
24th.
So last Saturday, I woke up and, backtrack real quick. 2013, I had lab tests done, and my labs always come out good, but the one lab test, the bilirubin, came out high. And so my doctor looked at it and said, we should probably send you for an ultrasound, because bilirubin can mean that you might have gallstones. So I go get an ultrasound, and sure enough, I have a pretty large MFing gallstone. She says, I said, what do we do? She says, there's not much you can do. You don't have any symptoms. So what we'll do is we'll just wait and see what happens. Well, that was all fine and good until the summertime, when Dave and I were out there visiting you, and I wake up and I thought it was gas. I did. I thought I had gas. We had gone out to that bar restaurant the night before, Todd, remember? And I had some kind of greasy grilled cheese wacky thing. And I usually eat a pretty low-fat diet. So I thought, I probably have gas, because I'm not used to that. My stomach isn't that used to that. And about, half hour later, it went away. So I didn't think anything of it. So I wake up this past Saturday morning, and it feels like I pulled a muscle in my back immediately upon waking up. And long story short, I had an awful gallbladder attack. And I remember back in 2013 asking my doctor, how will I know if I'm having a gallbladder attack? And she said, oh, you'll know. You'll know. And sure enough, I knew. So I did not go to the hospital, even though it was incredibly painful. It did eventually subside. And so all week, it has been back and forth with phone calls to my doctor and ultrasound appointments. And finally, I met with my doctor yesterday, and the gallbladder is coming out. And I'm pretty happy about that. I've been having some chronic, she referred to it as chronic kind of residual pain the entire week until last night. Last night, it finally calmed down a little bit, and I'm not too bad this morning either. But it's coming out. And I told her, I said, I'd rather be able to plan it now myself, my way, than have it be an emergency situation where I don't get to choose my surgeon, my time, my place, anything. So within the next few weeks, I'll be having my gallbladder out. And I'm a little nervous, because it is a surgery. But I'm going to be very happy to not have that hanging over my head anymore. So with that being said, I've been really concerned, believe it or not, about my eye injections, because I have to recover from surgery. I get my next set of eye injections on the 12th of October. And I don't want to miss those. Like, I'm fanatical about not missing those because my eyes are responding so well to it that I don't want to miss those. So I'm actually trying to schedule everything around my eye injections. So with that being said, we have a couple of bonus episodes coming everybody's way in between the two seasons, this season and season 6. But we may actually end up having to take an extra week or so off just so that I can get up to par. And granted, my studio is across the hallway, literally 3 steps from the bedroom, but we still don't know what's going on. So we'll have to play it by ear.
And maybe we'll have an empathicary in there, too, to kind of tide us over. There's some stuff that we've wanted to talk about on the empathicary. So maybe we put one of those out and give yourself an extra week or whatever. And, you know.
Yep. I have a little bit of time. I have at least a couple, 2 to 3 weeks. So we have some time. I told Dave last night it was sort of like writing my will. So that, you know how sometimes people die without a will? I said, I'm writing everything out now so I can plan it out and it's all taken care of by the time I get to my surgery. So we're ready to roll.
We're so different because I've had this surgery and literally I didn't think about it until, well, you know, you plan the surgery. They say you're going to come in on this date.
Right.
Basically, Lisa took me to the surgery. I went in. They come in their little garb, and I'm the anesthesiologist. Hello, my name is Ron, and I'm the surgeon, and blah blah blah. Right?
Yeah.
I'm laying there, and then they give you a little something. You kind of get a little loopy, then they knock you out, and before you know it, you're laying in bed. And the worst for me, there were 2 things that were really bad about the surgery. Okay, I'm just going to be upfront with you about it.
Right.
Number 1 was when you come out of it, you can't have any liquid.
Right.
They won't let you suck on ice. They won't let you drink water, nothing until you do what you have to do, which is you have to pee first. If you pee, then you can have all the water you want. Then you can go home.
Right. But how do you pee if they don't give you anything?
Well, you're going to have water in you, right?
Oh,
you're probably going to have some water in you at any rate. So that was, I mean, to me, that was just the worst part. Your mouth is dry and stuff.
I know.
And then the second part was when you get home, I mean, there's not a lot of pain with it other than you get gas that gets trapped in your body and you can't burp it and you can't fart it. And so you get this pain. Now, the pain you felt in your back is kind of what it's like. There's a little bit of that. And they always tell you, well, if you can do it, get on all fours, put your head down and your butt up, and sometimes it'll force the air to come out. Okay.
Right.
So you might find yourself in that position on your bed at some point and just do it when nobody's around. So
that's hilarious.
Other than that, I have to tell you that the pain I went through before having it done with all of the attacks and all that kind of stuff, it was so worth it. I would go if something else in my life would get that much better overnight by having that surgery again, I would go in a second.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the surgery itself. In 2017, I had both carpal tunnel done on both. So I know the procedure. The one in 2012 was an emergency. That was the one where I almost died. That I didn't even have time to think. They wheeled me down there. I woke up, I came up out of the tunnel, when you're waking up and you literally come up out of the tunnel and you're awake and then they wheel you back to your room. That's all I had. But the ones in 2017, I know how it works. It's just that unknown, and trying to make sure that everything's covered.
You know what I say to that?
What?
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. I mean, you could not plan all that stuff and take a drive over to your mom's house and die in a car wreck on the way over. And you got nothing planned out fuck
it's
it.
True.
It'll happen.
It's true. I take it in stride. It
sounds like it, doesn't it, everybody? Sounds like she takes it in stride.
I do.
A lot
of people are like, how come you didn't go to the hospital? Because what is the hospital going to do? They wouldn't have done anything for me. I'd rather be at my house with my pets and just live through it. Poor Dave had to go to a wedding. He was DJing a wedding. And he's like, do you want to go to the urgent care? And I said, the urgent care will send me to the hospital, and the hospital won't do anything. Right. I said, go to your wedding. Go do your wedding, and I'll be okay. So,
I want to talk to Dave, because probably in situations like this, he needs to just knock you out somehow. Like, I don't know, chloroform or something, and just take you in and have the procedure done. And then you can come out of the tunnel and everything will be fine on the other side.
That was really a wild experience. The coming out of the tunnel, like you literally, you know how they say like the near-death experience, not that I had a near-death experience, but how they say like it pulls you back up through a tunnel and you see the light and you kind of go towards the light.
I don't remember any of that.
That's what it was like for me. I came up out of the tunnel and I opened my eyes and there was Dave. And it was wild. It was something I'll never forget. It was a really weird experience. So, yeah, so that's that. So I did further along to our Fort Ontario episode a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I also got a chance to review my audio and got some interesting EVP tidbits that we'd like to share with everybody this week. Yeah. Thought it was very, very cool. Now, I did take a lot of videos of me using the equipment, the K2 meter, the Mel meter. Didn't know what to expect with the audio. Some of the places that I thought I might get more, I didn't. And some of the places that I wasn't even thinking about, I got a couple of cool clips. So let's go over them. There's, I think, 3, isn't there?
There are.
Okay, let's go over those. The first one is in the enlisted men's quarters. Now, it's a 2-story structure with a porch on the second story that hangs over the first story. And I remember when we walked up to it, this is just setting the stage for this EVP. When we walked up to it, there was an older man sitting on the bench with his dog against the structure. And there were 2 doors, one on each side of him. Both were closed. Didn't look like you could go in them. Didn't look like there was any activity there. They were basically just there. They probably are storage for the fort staff. We went upstairs, and on the second floor, there is an entire open area that shows how the enlisted men lived. Bunks with rows of rifles and a stove in the middle, and it was set up beautifully. The only creepy thing was that there were mannequins in the beds, and they all had these really weird looks on their faces.
Why do places do that? If you're going to do the garb and stuff like that, I'm fine with that. Just make them faceless, like dress forms and stuff like that. Do that.
It was very creepy. It was very creepy. So I walk up there, and at first I was by myself. And I walk up there and I'm checking to see if I get any readings. And I don't get any real readings. I'm kind of talking a little bit. And then Dave comes up and joins me. And he turns around and goes towards the railing of the porch. So I turn around and join him because on the second floor there, you can look over the fort onto Fort Ontario, Lake Ontario, with the lighthouse in the background and the water. It's absolutely stunning. Beautiful. So Dave and I are standing there and we're just kind of taking it all in. And this is where, when I reviewed the audio, I heard this. So, first of all, and you noticed it too, first of all, there was an inhale.
Right.
And it wasn't Dave or I. And the gentleman and his wife, who eventually joined him downstairs, were nowhere near us. So that really sounded like it was right up with us. And then a couple seconds later, you hear another breath and what sounds like a door creaking.
Right.
And closing. There would not have been any of that in that vicinity. 0 of that in that vicinity.
So let me ask you this for somebody who doesn't investigate. A lot of us will come up with a thought process on what we just heard if you're an investigator. Mm-hmm. So somebody who doesn't investigate or doesn't have a lot of background in this may say, well, why would that happen? Why would there be a door creaking if there were no doors in the area or the doors were locked or whatever? And I think it's important to say that sometimes when you're investigating, you get audio In this case, it could have been a door that opened or closed.
Yeah.
But more than likely, the sound was just residual of it happening at another time.
Yeah. Which is even more intriguing.
Right.
Because now, for anyone who's not familiar with the terms intelligent, residual, intelligent is exactly that. Intelligent means that the spirit or energy, it knows that we're there, is able to make conscious decisions about whatever it does or however it communicates. And residual is sort of like a tape player. So, for example, let's use the door as an example. If the door to the enlisted men's barracks would open and close 150 times a day for the 200 years that it was in service, that energy may actually stamp itself into that environment. And so what'll happen is it could be every hour, it could be 200 times a day, it could be once a year, it could be once every 10 years, that energy actually builds up and plays like that.
Or something, here again, I'll just play off that a little bit. Maybe something happened at a specific time that included that door. And so you just happen to be there at the exact moment when it happens once every 10 years or once every year or whatever. You just happened to catch it.
Exactly. Call me lucky, I guess.
Right.
The breath, the breath is an interesting one too. I mean, is that intelligent? Is it residual? I don't know, but it's definitely a couple of breaths. Maybe an inhale with an exhale. Was someone trying to tell us something by that? Hey, I'm here. Is that what they could do, what they were able to do? Was it residual as well? I don't know. But it's so interesting because at that point in time, I hadn't had any readings on anything. It was at the very beginning of our walkabout of the fort.
And you can continue to ask questions. Did that inhale, exhale, or whatever have something to, was it tied into the door? Did somebody at some point get some bad news and they inhaled and exhaled and walked out the door and it left an impression? I mean, you're left with more questions than answers, but there's so many ways to look at stuff like that.
Yeah. Play it one more time, Todd.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of the exhales or something. It reminded me a little bit of my dad when he's not really paying attention to what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And he might be in the kitchen and he, in the old days, might kind of just go, and not like an exasperation, just like an exhale, whatever. Yeah. That's what it kind of reminded me of.
Agreed. So very interesting. It's hard to tell for sure what it was. It wasn't like I was having some intelligent conversation or communication like I did in the other sections of the fort, but it's just very interesting. And being able to recall the environment at the time and who was with me and what it looked like and what was possible, it was a great tool for me to go back and look at it again, The other thing about residual that I always find interesting is a lot of it. I mean, there's some stuff that is visual and can be seen by the eye and heard by the ears, but there's a lot of it that isn't. And so when people say I've never seen anything, like in this case, it just happened to happen while you were there, that moment recording, but it probably happens when people are there all the time. They never, ever have experienced it. So it's like for us to say, well, there's nothing going on around me at this moment. Don't even start with me on that. You never know. Right. I'm surprised that you and I, like recording this podcast, haven't had audio come through during the podcasts. I know. We don't even know. Maybe we did.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Because we've never really listened for it.
I will say, though, that to me, residual can be almost as fascinating as intelligent because I've experienced it in many ways. I've seen things. I've heard things. I felt things. If you have certain abilities, you're able to feel the residual energy. You can feel intelligent energy, but you can also feel residual. One of the best examples was the Angry Garlic in Baldwinsville, New York, when we did that investigation. Upstairs was, fine. Upstairs was very active, but once you got into the basement where the speakeasy was, and there was a lot of emotion back then, sex, drugs, rock and roll, the whole 9 yards during Prohibition, violence, it hits you like a ton of bricks. And I could feel like probably it was one of the most heavily residual energy areas that I've ever been in. So there's a lot of ways that you can pick up on residual energy. And it is possible to have both intelligent and residual energy of the same spirit in the same place at the same time. It is possible. I never really understood that until the past year or so when I had 2 investigations where that had happened. And it's fascinating, just fascinating.
So now the next clip is entitled, I love the title on this one. It's called I Have No Idea. So tell us about this one, Sandy.
All right. So this one is almost too creepy. If everybody remembers, in Officers Quarters 1 is where I had the amazing conversation with Manya, who was a Jewish immigrant, a Jewish refugee during World War II, during the Holocaust, that was living at Fort Ontario. And Officers Quarters 1 was incredibly heavy residual and incredibly intelligent all at the same time. When I got on the second floor, my K2 would not stop going all the way to red, constantly, non-stop. So I'm listening to the audio and I hear this. So it's important to know that the sound that sounds like people in the background is actually, we were on the second floor or I was alone on the second floor, and Dave and the videos were on the first floor.
So that's what we're hearing is videos?
So we're hearing videos, like educational videos, down on the first floor.
Okay. So what's the footstep thing, though?
That was me walking.
Oh, thank God, because I'm like, holy shit.
No. That was me walking around because what I was trying to do was get out of the K2, out of the EMF. I was trying to figure out where, because the first thing you want to do when you're getting red consistently is you kind of want to find a control. You kind of want to find a place where there is no EMF so that you can kind of play with it a little bit and see if there is something that's causing. I couldn't get out of the EMF. So I'm literally walking around the second floor and it's everywhere. There's no light fixtures. There's no light anything because the park closes at 4:30. So every single day when it's open during the summertime, there is no need for an overabundance of electricity anywhere in the fort area other than the offices and things like that. So there is no real EMF other than what I'm experiencing, like anywhere. Like I can't find anything and I can't get away from it. And so when I heard this, it really threw me off because I thought, is that a scream? And then what I did was a female scream, by the way. And then what I did was I had to sit there and think to myself, well, was it on the videos? But if you listen, the videos are a very low, almost like a hum sound underneath the scream. The scream itself is completely separate from the sound of the videos, like the hum of the videos.
So I will be honest, when I listened to it, I don't know that I heard it. So let's play it again.
Okay.
And keep an ear open for a scream. Here it comes.
So
yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, and it's a female scream, but then right after that, it sounds like someone laughing, like a man laughing afterwards. And I know this sounds funny, but the only thing I could think of was, back in the silent film days where they'd have
Yes. That's so weird that you were going to say that. Yes.
The villain who tied the girl to the railroad tracks, and he had the mustache and everything, and he'd go, ha, 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 ha. That's what it reminded me of.
Let's play it one more time. So we'll listen for the scream, and then we'll see if we can hear the laugh afterward. Oh, yeah. The laugh was very loud.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know. Now, I do know, obviously, that it wasn't all peace and harmony there over the years. There were women that lived there. There were men that lived there in all different situations. The fort itself the original fort was constructed in 1755. There have been 4 different versions of the fort over the years because during the French and Indian War and everything, it was wood, so it was burnt down and rebuilt and all that kind of stuff. The current version of it, I believe, was in the late 1880s. So there were a lot of chances. There were almost 1,000 Jewish refugees. There obviously was violence, and there obviously was
sadness
and things that would go on there that, obviously we all know we don't need to talk about. But the fact that I had a woman screaming and a man laughing evilly, is that a word? In an evil way after that really, really is unsettling.
Yeah.
So that, I will say that that is something I wasn't expecting. I've never had anything like that before. I've heard screams before in one of my investigations. I did hear a scream. I did hear a moan in one of my investigations, both audible, but I have never had an EVP like that. Never.
Here's one of my favorite ones. Because it's you and you're investigating, and I believe you had gotten some hits on the meter right before this happened, right? Like you walked in and...
Yeah, I had gone, this is in the West Side guard house. It's all stone. And I had gone in originally when Dave was paying for us to get into the fort. I had just gone in quick and got a quick hit on the K2 when I walked into the jail cell in the back. There's literally one of the original guard house jail cells in the back. And I walked in and I got a hit of 2.5. And then it kind of quieted down. So I left. And I said to Dave as we were walking back around, I said, I want to go back in the guardhouse. And I want to try it, but I'm going to use my meter this time. So I said, what I want you to do, I'm going to record it, but I want you to take video too, which he did, which was great. But this is me asking whoever was there, and I could feel him there. I could feel that there was a man in there. And I think at first he didn't want to get near me, but then all of a sudden he got near me because that's when I was getting those huge spikes on the meter of 80. And I said something to the effect of,
are you mad that I'm in here with you or something?
Yes. Are you mad that I'm back here in here with you?
And then this is what happens. Yep.
Are you mad that I'm in here? He didn't want me around.
Yeah. I'm going to play it one more time.
Okay. Are you mad that I'm in here?
Yeah.
And that's pretty damn obvious. I mean, there was nobody. It was interesting because there's rock all around the pathway, the circle inside the fort. And so when people are coming, you can hear that people are coming. So it's sort of like its own little alarm. There was nobody near us. Talking. It was just me or Dave. And Dave was outside of the cell. So Dave would have seen if anybody was there. And Dave's like, yeah, there was nobody there. So all in all, between the conversations and the videos and the readings on the meter and the K2, the experiences that I personally felt, the energy that I personally felt, that visit to Fort Ontario was probably one of my most bizarre visits that I've ever had. Investigations. It was kind of a quasi investigation, but it was probably one of the more unexpected, interesting ones that I've ever had. I was hoping for maybe a little bit of, a 1.2 somewhere along the way, and never expected to get that. So,
well, it's kind of ironic. I'm not sure if you saw, but I sent you something last night. In the last episode when we talked about Fort Ontario, one of the things that you talked about was the fact that as a country, the United States did not do much to help people during that time.
Yes.
And there is actually a really good documentary right now on PBS about how the U.S. acted during the Holocaust. And I thought you might find that very interesting. Ken Burns, who is a very good director and producer of all sorts of things. He did the Civil War for the PBS, and he's done so many other things. Ken Burns has put this together. And I think it's a good mention for our listeners. If you've ever questioned like how the U.S. acted during the Holocaust, we can talk about having the poor, the huddled masses yearning to be free come to this country. But the truth of the matter is, during that time especially, and other points in our history as a country, that was not the case.
No, and I'm looking at it right now, as a matter of fact, and I do want to watch it. Maybe I'll watch it today. It's really interesting, the fact that, we all love our country. Everybody loves their country. This is where we were born. But there's a lot of things wrong with this country, and not even just political. There's just a lot of things wrong with this country. And the fact that in the 40s, there was so much anti-Semitism in the government that it cost hundreds of thousands of lives, of innocent lives, of people who did nothing but exist. That was their crime. They existed. And the United States, for the longest time, decided not to intervene and not to help. And again, there was one incident with, I believe it was Poland, but one incident where over 100,000 Jewish people could have been saved with a bribe of $160,000, and nobody did it. And so, each life is very precious. And for someone who believes that they may have lived a life during the Holocaust, there's a lot of things that point to that for me. It's just it's sad, and it's heartbreaking to know that a country as powerful as this chose not to do the right thing more than it did the right thing.
Well, I think what we've learned, and this is not a cut down the United States thing.
No, not in any way, shape, or form.
This is just an honest, an honest take on some stuff. If you really want to know the history of our country, sometimes you got to get away from the history books, because the books themselves did not take a lot of that into consideration. When we learned about the Holocaust, right? You and I, when we were in school, there were chapters on it. We learned about it, but we never heard these stories. And I think the thing that we have to do as human beings is to look for ourselves for the answers, and look for the documentaries and the people who are telling the story, not as a reporter, not as a quote unquote news reporter or a network or anything like that. Walk away from that. And it was very interesting. I knew we were going to do this segment. And then yesterday that came up to me, and I thought, you know what? Ken Burns did a great documentary on the Civil War, really brought the Civil War to life for today's people. Like it felt, by watching this, you really had a feel for what the hell was going on back in the Civil War. And so I thought, this would be great. And I really do hope you check that out. So.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely. And just one more thing about that. The United States Holocaust Museum does some free programs online, some free lectures where actual Holocaust survivors speak for about an hour and tell their stories, and then do a Q&A at the end. And I've watched so many of them, but just go to their page and they'll have a schedule of when they have them. Usually it's once a month, but sometimes it's a little bit more. It's fascinating to hear their stories in their own words of what their lives were like. And most of them were little children, but it's not just the Holocaust itself. If they survived, then they still had years and years of struggle, and it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns for them. Sometimes it took years for them to get to where they needed to be, and it was quite a struggle.
Let's be honest, in this country, there's still some anti-feelings, not only to that group of people, but many groups. So,
yeah.
All right. We've got this is the last of this season. It's done.
Right.
5 is in the fucking books. It's done.
Yes, it is.
We're looking ahead to.
Why did this seem like, I'm not saying it wasn't fun, because it was, but why did it seem like the season just took so long?
So I'll tell you why. I do know. So we have been work-wise busier now than ever before.
Yeah.
I had a new station this summer, and, that's just added a bunch of work to my stuff, and you've got stuff going on, and then, you're out there eating gallbladder affecting foods, and that's got you, laid up. And so at any rate, this one's done. We mentioned it in the last couple of podcasts. Season 6 will be a little different. It's going to be 8 episodes. We're going to specifically talk in this series about Bigfoot.
Yes.
And then the next episode, the next series will be another heading and another heading and another heading. So hopefully you stick around for it. Hopefully you have enough interest in what we do that even if the topic is a little off to you, things that maybe you're not interested in, or a little strange, or maybe you're a non-believer, still come around and hang out with us, because we'll still have some fun doing that.
We still have fun. It's never going to be one of those intense dive into. There'll be some fun along the way as well. And I was just talking to Todd about it last night, that I want him to watch a snippet from a documentary called Missing 411 The Hunted, about missing hikers in, I believe, the Sierra Nevada mountains over the years, and the cases. And one of the cases that we'll discuss in the upcoming Bigfoot season 6, will be from that documentary. So I highly recommend you watch that documentary. It's free on YouTube, so check it out.
All right, let's get our spiel in here, and then we'll move on.
All righty.
You can find the Sandy and Toddcast on any of the platforms that you normally find your podcasts, including YouTube and Twitter. Be sure to like the Sandy and Toddcast on Facebook to keep up on the latest goings-on, including each week's episode. You can also join our group, Stay Weirdos Friends of the Sandy and Toddcast, for more fun. Stay Weirdos is a safe place to share your thoughts, feelings, ideas, and random inappropriate memes without judgment. Sandy and Todd also have a podcast called The Empathicary Podcast. It's for empaths, by empaths. And if you know an empath, you might want to listen too. Find and like the page on Facebook. And finally, if you're thinking about starting your own podcast and just aren't sure where to start, Sandy and Todd can also help with that too. MindgardenMedia is their latest project, where the dynamic duo can guide you every step of the way in your podcasting journey. Editing, producing, and consulting is what they do. Like Mindgarden on Facebook, or email them at themindgardenmedia@gmail.com. And as always, thanks for staying weird.
That's it. It's all done.
That's it. Done.
Season 6 done?
No, season 5 is done.
Season 5's done? Can season 6 be done too?
No.
Okay.
No, we're moving on. This will be a lot of fun. I really like this new format, so this should be really cool. And some bonus episodes coming everyone's way too.
What are we going to talk about in the bonus episodes?
I think we're going to talk about the Ouija board.
That's right. And you're going to talk about a cemetery visit, right?
Yeah, that was really super cool.
And hopefully we may have an Empathicary podcast in there too. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. All right.
Well, while my gallbladder is being excised or exorcised,
I'm going to get a voice to your gallbladder.
I wouldn't. It wouldn't be surprised.
The gallbladder's on the phone. Okay, until next time. Bye.
We love you guys. Bye.